everyone. This is Marcus Norman from Gentleman Style Podcast, your host of the #1 podcast coming to you live in America. And today I have Dr. Leslie Ray Matthews. He is one of the most celebrated top vitamin D experts in the world. He's a Mississippi native. Dr. Matthews earned his Bachelor's of Arts in Chemistry cum laude at the University of Mississippi in 1985, followed by an MD in 1989. This man is on a mission. Mr. Matthews is a diplomat of the American Board of Surgery. Dr. Matthews earned certification in general surgery and surgical critical care. He's also, in addition to that, he also worked at Morehouse School of Medicine and Grady Memorial Hospital. Dr. Matthews has lectured in Dubai and various other Middle Eastern countries. He is absolutely dynamic. He is absolutely powerful. And today he is here on Gentleman Style Podcast to answer our questions, your questions, my questions about vitamin D and how it connects to the coronavirus. Yes, the coronavirus. And so without further ado, please help me welcome to the stage, Dr. Leslie Matthews.
Thank you, Marcus. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining us today, Doctor. Thank you for joining Gentleman Style Podcast. Sir, your resume is extensive. You are a man on the mission.
Yeah, yes, I am.
So diving right into it, what is vitamin D?
Vitamin D is a hormone, and it was named a vitamin. It was discovered 100 years ago. And they had vitamin A, vitamin B, vitamin C. So the next substance they found was vitamin D. 100 years ago, they did not know it was a hormone. So it has receptors on every cell and tissue in your body, which makes it unlike a vitamin. A vitamin is like a spark plug to make a reaction go at a lower temperature. Hormones determine how our body interacts with our stress. So you can call vitamin D or hormone D is an anti-stress hormone. So any type of reaction that goes on in your body, how you interact with your environment, it helps. Vitamin D helps everything. So you have 30,000 genes in the human body, and 3,000 of those genes are controlled by vitamin D, such as your immune response system. So the strength of your immune system depends on your vitamin D level, and your inflammatory response system also, the amount of inflammation or phlegm that you get when you get coronavirus or you got a swollen ankle. So vitamin D decreases that inflammation and helps the body return to normal. So it basically is the most common nutritional deficiency in the world. So probably 50% of the people in the world are vitamin D deficient.
50%. 50%, y'all. That's a staggering number, right?
Yes.
And so with vitamin D being that important, one of the things I discovered is there's the difference between a fat-soluble vitamin and a water-soluble vitamin. What are the difference between the two, and which one is vitamin D?
Vitamin D is a fat-soluble vitamin. So you have fats in your food and like in milk and your meats, you have a lot of fats. And then water-soluble vitamins, an example of that is vitamin C, which is aqueous, so just drink a lot of water. So it dissolves in water, whereas fat-soluble vitamins are better dissolved in fats. And so you get better absorption when you take vitamin D with a regular meal.
Perfect. So vitamin D is a water-soluble, fat-soluble
vitamin, yes.
Perfect. And why is that significant? Why is that important to know?
It's significant because it helps to increase the absorption. So if you just drink water and take your vitamin D, you're not going to absorb it as much as if you eat a fatty meal or just a regular diet with it. So it increases absorption capacity.
Perfect. So increases absorption capacity.
Mm-hmm.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you're just tuning into the show, we have the incredible Dr. Leslie Matthews on today, and he just explained to us what is vitamin D. What foods contain high concentrations of vitamin D in them?
That's a very good question, Marcus. The problem is when I was in medical school 30 years ago, or when the dinosaurs roamed the earth, we were told that if you eat 3 healthy meals a day, you'll be healthy. But you can't eat 3 healthy meals because you only get 10% of vitamin D from your diet. 90% of vitamin D comes from the sun striking your skin. So the foods that do have vitamin D are milk. Most African Americans can't drink a lot of milk because they have lactose intolerance or they don't have the enzyme lactase. So they get bloated, nausea, vomiting. So it's not a good food, and it only has 100 international units in it. So you need a lot more vitamin D. You'd have to drink 20 cups of milk to get a decent amount of vitamin D. Other foods are the fatty fish such as salmon, mackerel, tuna, which a lot of people do not eat. Most people just eat straight catfish. Certain forms of mushrooms also have a vitamin D in it, but these only have up to like 400 international units, which is still not enough. So you only get 10% of vitamin D from your diet. 90% comes from the sun striking your skin.
So we need to get outside. That's what I'm hearing.
Yes, but I have to add that with a caveat is that we made a compromise with the dermatologist. The dermatologists are worried about skin cancers and sunburn, so they recommend, or we recommended together, came up with a solution that you go outside 15 minutes without your sunscreen and then put your sunscreen on after 15 minutes. So I must also state that just getting out in the sun is not going to produce vitamin D. So right now we're in the winter. We're just like plants. Plants need the sun to make crops and foods, and we need the sun to make vitamin D. But plants can only make food and crops in the spring,
Right.
summer, and early fall. So we're just like that too. So we can only make vitamin D from late March through early October. So from October through the end of that to the next March, like right now, so you can stand outside all day and you're gonna make zero vitamin D. And then also the second point is that you need the sun at a 90-degree angle in order to make vitamin D. So which is the summer months. So we're getting the sun at a 45-degree angle. Remember, the Earth rotates and tilts on a 23-degree axis, which produces our season. So we're in our winter season. So you can't make any vitamin D right now. That's why people get more colds and flus and winter blues in the wintertime, because you can't make any vitamin D, and your vitamin D level drops about 30% in the wintertime.
So, and that's perfect. Y'all, if you're just tuning in, we have Dr. Leslie Matthews breaking it down on what foods and where can we get the most vitamin D. Only 10% is in our food. That's 10% is coming from our food. The rest of it is coming from the sun. We get 90% of our vitamin D from the sun. Mr. Matthews, help us out here. What is someone who is vitamin D deficient? What are some symptoms that they would experience so they can tell that they have a low deficiency of vitamin D?
Okay, in kids, you see kids that sometimes have frequent multiple of bone fractures and stuff. So we've had cases where they thought there was child abuse, and actually the kid had a severe vitamin D deficiency and would just fall and just break bones. Wow. So you have to distinguish. So that's one of the symptoms. So multiple frequent falls or fractures. Elderly people usually fall a lot because they're vitamin D deficient. Other symptoms you see is like bone pain, joint pain, frequent upper respiratory tract infections. So if you're constantly getting a lot of upper respiratory tract infections frequently, you might want to get your vitamin D level checked. And just generalized pain and fatigue and mental fog, not thinking well, depression, hair loss, brittle nails are some of the things that you see with vitamin D deficiency.
Did you say hair loss?
Yes, hair loss. And so I've had a lot of people tell me once they started vitamin D, especially ladies, that their hair grew longer, their nails were tougher and not as brittle as they used to be.
Wow. So hair loss, brittle bones, not strong bones. And one more thing is skin, bad skin. Is that ashy skin or flaky skin?
Yeah, you can get acne and acne, and I've seen that frequently. And young kids doing it go through that acne phase. And so I used to work with a football team, and all the boys on the football team, the teenagers, they kind of avoided that acne phase where they were walking around. They're pretty vain, talking about how pretty their skins were. It was kind of funny seeing a bunch of football players talking about how pretty their skin was compared to the other kids in the school that did not play football.
They were focusing on something else besides football, right?
No, actually, they were great football players. From the team I worked with in 2011, Martin Luther King High School in Lithonia, Georgia, they went 13-1, only had one concussion that year, and 25 of those football players got a D1 scholarship. So they were, and they were doing well academically also.
Wow. So would you contest their success to high vitamin D counts?
Yes, we did, because number one, they had 5 different coaches during the 5 seasons I worked with them. So each year they had a different head coach. And the only thing they had consistent over that 5 year period was vitamin D. And so I had to start working with my nephew, Jordan Moore. He's played in the NFL and Canadian Football League. So right now, I've had 2 players off that team that made it to the NFL and 2 in the Canadian Football League. So they were exceptional athletes. They're very strong, very fast, and actually the defense had like a 4.6 40-yard dash overall time for all 11 players.
Wow. Wow. I need to get my vitamin D up so I could get back and get on my strong game. Stay tuned, y'all. We are going to dive deeper into this message with Dr. Leslie Matthews. Stay tuned. We're going to go to a quick commercial break. We'll be right back. See you guys soon.
Are you a local business looking to offer your customers easy access to cash without having to travel miles? We're here to help. At Norman Legacy Investments, we provide free ATMs with free installation that provide a suitable investment for your business. Even better, we offer you some profit sharing and handle everything from start to finish. Just reach out to us today to schedule a free consultation.
Hey, everybody, this is Marcus Norman from Gentleman Style Podcast, your host of the #1 podcast coming to you live in America. And today we have the incredible, amazing Dr. Leslie Matthews, and he is breaking it down for us, the importance, the significance of vitamin D and having enough of it to survive in this economy, in the current economy that we are in. So, doctor, tell us. You just told us what foods contain high concentrations of vitamin D. You just explained to us the difference between a fat soluble and a water soluble, and that vitamin D is a fat soluble vitamin. And then also what vitamin D is, just as it exists today. What diseases are associated with someone with low vitamin D?
Marcus, that is a very good question. Almost all the diseases of aging or associated chronic disease of aging or associated with vitamin D deficiency, such as heart disease, arthritis, rheumatisms, various forms of cancers, and just basically most of the chronic diseases, because it produces lack of vitamin D, you have chronic inflammation. So we know now that it's the chronic inflammation that causes most of the disease of aging. They used to believe that it was a high cholesterol that caused most heart attacks. Now we know it's the chronic inflammation. So inflammation, it's kind of like having a smoldering wildfire and just waiting on a match, and then it grows out of control. So almost all diseases that we age with, arthritis, the rheumatisms, the Alzheimer's, the dementia, strokes, heart attacks, so all those diseases are associated with vitamin D deficiency.
Wow. And so, doctor, that's extensive. You could almost list the things. That's 90% of all the symptoms that African Americans suffer from today.
Yes, because African Americans, or 98% of African Americans, are vitamin D deficient. Our vitamin D levels are low because we have more melanin in our skin. So the average African American has to stay in the sun 3 to 10 times longer than the average Caucasian American to make the same amount of vitamin D. So having a vitamin D level low, 30% lower, actually increases your mortality rate from all diseases, all causes. So if you come in the hospital, and I was a trauma surgeon, I'm retired, if you had a traumatic brain injury and your vitamin D level was 12, in the next 24 hours, your vitamin D level would be 6, because your vitamin D level drops 50% automatically just by being in the hospital and have some type of illness or injury. And having a vitamin D level less than 18 nanograms per milliliter, the federal government says 30 is normal. So if your level is less than 18, your risk of death from all causes goes up 30% automatically. So if you have a traumatic brain injury, coronavirus, heart attack, stroke, your risk of death goes up 30% automatically just by having a level less than 18.
Wow. So, doctor, please help my audience. We have some dramatic changes to do, and we have a long way to go. 2020 was a very tumultuous year. It was a very long-lasting year with deaths and COVID-19 running rampant. Why is COVID-19 so deadly?
Well, it's a virus, and like I try to tell people, from the onset, this virus is unlike any other virus I've ever seen. So all the rules that you know about virology and immunology, you can almost throw them out the window. First of all, it was said that this disease would not attack African Americans, and I said that is not true. I said when it does hit the inner of the country, it's going to go through African Americans like wildfire because our vitamin D levels are low, which means that we have a weaker immune system, which means that we have less T cells or white blood cells to fight off infection. And other things was in the winter, in the summertime, it's going to go away. This virus is resistant. It mutates at least twice a month or every 2 weeks. And this is a smart virus, if you ask me. So it is unlike anything we've ever seen before.
This is dangerous.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
sorry. How does vitamin D help the body fight or prevent COVID-19?
Okay. So, for example, vitamin D is like the key to the ignition of the old cars. And so now everything is push button. So in the old days, if you didn't have a key, you basically couldn't crank the car unless you hardwired it. So vitamin D basically stimulates or strengthens your immune system. White blood cells fight off bacteria, viruses, fungus, parasites, and it does cancer surveillance. So your immune system, a strong immune system, can basically fight off any or most defenders. So what vitamin D does is it increases your white blood cell count because it's a hormone. It goes through the nucleus of the cell and causes it to produce more T cells or CD4 cells, which basically differentiates into white blood cells. So the more white blood cells you have, you can fight off. So it's just like having an army. So if you have 10 soldiers and you get attacked by a battalion or a company, you're not going to win that fight most likely unless you got Navy SEALs. And but having vitamin D or getting your vitamin D level up, now you have 100,000 soldiers versus 10 soldiers. So you can most likely win any battle with 100,000 soldiers versus 10 soldiers.
And thank you for breaking that down so eloquently. That is a fantastic explanation. And y'all, this man is incredible. This man is amazing, and how he is breaking things down for us. You're not going to get this anywhere else on Gentleman Style Podcast. Today, we have the incredible Mr. Dr. Leslie. We are on iHeartRadio, Spotify, iTunes, Facebook, LinkedIn, and anywhere social media can be listened to or audio visually listened to. We have a question from our audience for you, Doctor. So Miss Leora Israel, she asks, so what's the best way to get it in the winter? She's currently pregnant and deficient.
Okay, Ms. Leora, first of all, ask your doctor to check your blood vitamin D level. It's a simple blood test that can be done in your doctor's office. They send it off to a lab. You get the results back that day or next day. The best way to get vitamin D, as a trauma surgeon, I basically worked indoors 80 to 100 hours a week for 31 years. So I was never outside. So I take supplements. So supplement is the best way because you can't get enough in your diet. Only 10% comes from your diet. You can go outside and in the summer, in the spring, and make some vitamin D, but it has to be between the hours of 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. So if you go outside in the summertime at 4 p.m., you're just getting darker, and you just are getting the sun rays, but you're not producing vitamin D. So most people are working doing hours of 9 and 3 and don't go outside. Back when I was in school, we had recess. We were outdoors playing more than the kids are now. And we lived in an agricultural society versus a technology society where everybody works indoors. So the best way to get your vitamin D level up or get your vitamin D in the wintertime is to take supplements. I go to Walmart or GNC store. I don't own any stock in any company, so I'm not advertising for any company. But just go to a store and buy a good brand of vitamin D is the best way to supplement.
Perfect. And that's perfect. I hope that helps, Miss Israel. I hope you stay safe in these crazy times. That was a great question. Thank you for that, Doctor.
You're welcome.
Dr. Matthews, in your extensive research, when did you first make the connection? You've been studying vitamin D. You've been doing a lot of things. But when did you first make the connection between vitamin D and COVID-19?
Basically back in 2009 when we started working with our trauma patients. So all my research came from working with severely injured trauma patients in the ICU or the surgical intensive care unit. These are patients that were on the ventilators. They had gunshot wounds, knife stabs, car crashes, and all type of injuries. And patients on the ventilator, when they're on the ventilator more than 2 days, your risk of getting ventilated-associated pneumonia goes up about 40%. Then the mortality rate from patients on the ventilator with pneumonia is about 40%. So basically, we noticed that our patients, when they're on the ventilator, they start coming off the ventilator a lot faster. The incidence of pneumonia in our ventilated patients decreased. Fewer of them had that chronic inflammation in your lungs that you see with ARDS or that you see with the coronavirus. So we noticed, regardless of what type pneumonia it was, if you understand the biochemistry of the process, it works on all pneumonias. So vitamin D works on bacterial pneumonias, it works on fungal pneumonias, it works on parasites, and so any type of pneumonia. So once you understand the mechanism, it's all the same, basically.
Wow. So would you say on Gentleman's Style Podcast today, would you say vitamin D could be considered a cure for COVID-19?
Well, Marcus, you have to be careful with that word cure. FDA does not like the word cure. So as a doctor, I have to say we can't cure anything. I can't even cure the common cold. We treat things or we can slow the progression of things. But you say that cure, you get in trouble with the FDA. So that cure word out there. Oh, you didn't know. Throw it out your vocabulary. So you can treat it, or it stimulates the immune system. That's what it does. So a strong immune system can fight off anything.
Perfect. So we need that immune system booster. We need to keep our immune system strong, especially in this time. And vitamin D sounds like it's at the epicenter of resisting and surviving a viral attack by COVID-19.
Yes. If you have a strong immune system, you can fight off anything. Actually, they've done research with vitamin D and everything, and so it decreases your chance of getting a lot of different cancers. Mayo Clinic recommends that all women with breast cancer take vitamin D lifelong. It's been shown to help in prostate cancers. A paper just came out to show that in advanced stages of cancer, it increases the survival rate. So being vitamin D deficient is not good, so your body has more soldiers to fight. So just think of it like that way. You have more soldiers to fight the enemy, regardless of what it is, whether it's a cancer, whether it's a bacterial infection, or fungal infection, or a parasitic infection. So basically, you're arming your body with more soldiers to fight whatever it comes, whatever disease it comes.
Wow. You guys are tuning in to Dr. Leslie Ray Matthews and his incredible insight and wisdom. You can tell this man is absolutely incredible, and he's helping us, he's helping me survive this COVID-19. And that's why I had to get him on the show. We are going to go to one more quick commercial break. We got to pay some bills, y'all, like always, but I love you guys. Stay engaged, stay tuned, and we'll be right back.
I'm Marcus Norman, bringing fresh vibes to hot topics surrounding culture, relationships, business, finance, sex, dating, faith, and everything in between. Whether you're into passive income opportunities, trending topics and useful relationship tips, or dynamic guest speakers, there's something for everyone. You can expect all that and more every week. If you're down with this content, then consider joining our growing community by subscribing to Gentleman's Style Podcast and smash the bell to get on our VIP list. Your support means the world. Thanks for watching. Link to my channel.
Hey y'all, we are back to the Gentleman's Style Podcast, the number one show coming to you live in America. And today we have the incredible Dr. Leslie Matthews, and he is sharing with us, and he's supporting us and helping us survive this COVID-19 pandemic with his extensive knowledge. If you've missed that, please scroll back and tune in. We're going to take two more questions from the audience. Our first question is Miss Shanique Henry asks, what is the difference between vitamin D and D3?
Miss Henry, actually D and D3 is the same thing. You have two different types. You have vitamin D2 and D3. D2 is made by plants, and we're in the animal kingdom, so we make D3. The D2, usually vegetarians like the D2 because they don't like any animal products, but D3 is what we really need because D3, you can absorb that 87 times better than you can the D2. But just simple D and D3 is the exact same thing.
Perfect. I hope that helps answer your question, Ms. Shanique. And speaking of dosage, we have one more great question from Hughes Hannah, and she asks, "What dosage?" You mentioned supplements earlier, doctor. What dosage of the supplement should we take?
Well, Ms. Hannah, I recommend you go see your doctor, get a blood test done, because if your level is really low, you need a doctor's prescription strength, which can only be obtained by prescription, which is 50,000 international units. The highest supply that you can buy in most stores is either 5,000, 7,000, or 10,000 IUs. Most stores very seldom carry above 5,000 IUs. So you need the 50,000 IUs if your level is real low, which most people are. That's a doctor's prescription and need to be under the maintenance of a doctor. So once you get the level up with a 50,000 IUs, then after that level is up, you need to take a maintenance dose. So most people think once they get the level up, they're done. It's kind of like you can fill your tank up, but you need to refill your tank every week. You can't put just one tank of gas in the car and think you're going to drive the rest of the year or the rest of the month on one tank. So your body is just like that. But everybody's different. So the amount of dosages that you need is affected by your weight, your size. So obese people store vitamin D in their fat tissue versus the blood system. So they usually need a larger dose. A larger person usually need a larger dose. So if you're on steroids, seizure medication, or HIV medication, that normally decreases the production of vitamin D or decreases of the vitamin D levels. So then the darker skinned people need more than lighter skinned people because we have to stay in the sun 3 to 10 times longer to make the same amount of vitamin D. So vitamin D is made by the sun striking your skin. So people over the age of 70 produce 25% of the amount of vitamin D that younger people produce. And if you have liver disease, this compound, then once it strikes your skin, it goes to the liver and get a compound added to it. Then it goes to the kidney. So if you have kidney failure or kidney problems, issues, and or liver problems, cirrhosis or whatever, you may need a higher dosage. So each person is different, and you need to sit down with a physician to figure out how much you need, because you can get into vitamin D toxicity if you don't understand the dosages. And then people with high calcium levels or certain diseases have to monitor their vitamin D level carefully because vitamin D can raise your calcium level.
Perfect. I hope that helps answer your question, Ms. Hughes. That definitely helps me, and that's Dr. Well articulated, very well said. Thank you for that. What is the highest level that I can buy over the counter without a prescription is 5,000 EUs, you said?
IUs, international units.
International units.
Some health food stores carry up to 10,000 international units. And so it varies. Most places carry up to 5,000.
So, doctor, today your prescription, you would recommend people invest in purchasing supplements and taking them to help build up that immunity to COVID-19.
Well, I recommend going to your physician and sit down and formulate a plan with your physician. Just go taking it because it's a hormone. Remember, you can do damage with a hormone if you don't understand how to use it or understand what conditions affect it or how it affects the body. So I do not recommend people just go buy vitamin D and just start taking a whole bunch of a handful of them, because some people, that's the reason I don't like to discuss dosages unless I'm meeting with a person individually. And because when you just say dosages, even in my family, I've had people in my family, I tell them to take 5,000, and they'll come back and say, well, you said 5, but I figure if I take 2 or 3 times the number what you told me, I'll feel a lot better. So I didn't tell you to take 2 or 3, I told you to take 1. So you have to worry about that. So, and then one size does not fit every person. Kids need less than adults, and then some adults need less or more, based on what type of disease processes they have in body size.
That makes perfect sense. So I apologize, you guys. We can't give out dosages here. Please do not run to your local CVS. The doctor is in, but please do not run to your local CVS and say Dr. Matthew Lewis told you to get 10,000 international units of vitamin D. So what are some side effects of overdosing on vitamin D? What what's the side effect of if I have too much in my system?
That's called vitamin D toxicity. Signs and symptoms of vitamin D toxicity are nausea, vomiting. You can go into a coma if you have levels too high. You can get kidney stones if you have level too high. So probably the most common symptom most people see is kidney stones because most people are dehydrated, number one. And so then you add in something that helps you increase calcium absorption, you can get kidney stones.
Wow. So y'all go to your doctor, get that blood work done before ever jumping in, and let your doctor recommend a good start, because you may be deficient, you may be efficient. So to get the numbers, we got to get the facts, we got to do our research, we got to get our homework. Doctor, I want to break a myth today on Gentleman Style Podcast. I've heard this numerous times during COVID-19 that COVID-19 cannot spread in warm, sunny weather.
That is not true. Actually, in Africa, in South Africa, now you have one of the most deadliest variants or strands on the planet called the South African variant. So it's in all climates. They even have coronavirus or COVID-19 in Antarctica, which the temperature gets as low as a minus 100 degrees during the winter months. So it's all in all 7 continents on the planet. Everywhere. It's spread completely around the world. So I live in Mississippi. If you Google Mississippi and coronavirus, so they've had quite a few deaths, and they're one of the hot spots. And it gets hot in Mississippi in the summertime. So the hot places, Atlanta, Georgia, where I live now, has been one of the hot spots, especially Atlanta. So it can happen. It can occur anywhere. It's on all 7 continents. There's nowhere on the planet, no continent you can go where there's not coronavirus.
We can't outrun it.
No, you can't.
Can't outrun it.
You can supplement.
Supplementation. And so we're going to take one more question. Ms. Rika was very adamant. She even texted me. Does vitamin D help with your menstrual cycle?
Ms. Rika, it does not help with your menstrual cycle per se, but it does help kind of regulate your hormones. I've had ladies tell me it helps with their menstrual cramps. They have less abdominal pain because Mayo Clinic did a study, found out when you're vitamin D deficient, your risk or pain level goes up by 50%. So it can decrease the amount of pain you have, but I've not had any experience with it regulating the menstrual cycle.
Perfect. There you go, Ms. Rika. The doctor is in, and he is helping us today, and he's giving us the insight on Gentleman Style Podcast today. So, doctor, what are some things people can do on their own to protect themselves and increase their vitamin D naturally? Is there anything that you would recommend that people can do to include supplements?
In the summertime, starting in late March, this is end of January coming up. So in another month and a half or another 2 months, starting in March, you can go outside between 9 a.m. and 3 p.m. for 15 minutes and then put your sunscreen on. So we can start back making vitamin D in the northern hemisphere where we live versus the southern hemisphere. So you're in Brazil, you can make vitamin D right now, but United States you can't. So in the summer, in the spring and summer, you can make vitamin D. So you can get 15 minutes of sunlight between 9 a.m. and 3 p.m. Every day, and that'll help get your vitamin D level up.
Perfect. Doctor, what book would you recommend that every man or woman should read?
I would recommend the Bible because it teaches us all humanity, how to act and how to get along with other people and to just not be selfish. So if everybody read the Bible and, followed just basically the 10 Commandments, thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not, I wouldn't have been as busy as I was in trauma as a trauma surgeon, operating on young African-American men all day and all night. If that golden rule by itself was just simply followed, thou shalt not steal. So, things like that. So that is the one book I would recommend that everybody read, and because there are 7.5 billion people on the planet, and we all need to learn how to get along and work together as one team. We're all humans.
Amen. That was a word. Y'all. Thank you, Pastor, Doctor.
I am from a long line of preachers.
There you go. It's in the DNA. What is your favorite way to give back to your community?
believe in mentoring and just helping people out. I'm the youngest of 11 kids, and my dad was a Baptist minister. My mother basically was a housewife, and she had the first set of Siamese twins in 1955 to be successfully separated. So she was a special lady. So if somebody in our neighborhood, house burned down or anything that happened, we live right across the street from the high school, so I could just jump the ditch. I was on the high school campus. So we were the house on the block. So my mom always had enough food, it looked like it, to feed everybody at the school. I'm like, how you feed 11 kids and then invite everybody to sit down? It's like the pot multiplied. The food just it never ran out. And so my mom and dad were very giving people. At my dad's funeral, I had a lot of people come up to me and tell me they couldn't pay their light bills or they couldn't buy their kids shoes, and he had done a lot of things in the community. So it's like we were not wealthy, but we were never without. And so I think if you help, you always get back.
I love that. I love that. Amen. Amen. This is blessing me. Pastor, how can my audience connect with you? How can they reach out with you and pick your brain and just learn from you?
Well, my Facebook page, Leslie Ray Matthews, is probably where I have the most information. I just kind of jot down my thoughts. So if you go back probably 3 years, you can see most of the things that I've written about. And I have an Instagram page, and Dr. Leslie Ray Matthews. And you can just Google my name, Dr. Leslie Ray Matthews, and you can pick up a lot of information. I have videos and articles. I've published over 40 articles and abstracts, 40 articles, 40 abstracts. And so those are about the 3 ways you can contact me or look me up.
Perfect. Doctor, thank you so much for being on Gentleman Style Podcast today. Thank you for serving. Thank you for giving back. This was incredible. You have served and helped us today, and I appreciate you, sir.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Please don't give up. Please don't ever give up on what you're doing, because we need you. We need more men like you teaching and educating in the world.
Thank you.
Yes,
have a great
sir.
afternoon.
Absolutely. And thank you all, my audience from Gentleman Style Podcast, for tuning in today. And thank you all for subscribing and tuning in and supporting the channel. I appreciate you guys for tuning in today and supporting me. It goes without saying. Like I always say, take care of your friends, take care of your families, and take care of business. This is Marcus Norman from Gentleman Style Podcast, signing off. Love you guys. Bye.